Gata on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely even in millions of ages, now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
I would like to speak today about the warrior spirit, particularly the bodhisattva warrior spirit. That quality of mind and heart and body and character that is absolutely required to do this work. I'm very proud of the fact that our community goes to great lengths to accommodate everyone. This is an amazing virtue. This will be maintained and improved constantly. No fault, no challenge with that. But there is another side, and that is that your suffering, to really be free of it, you must not accommodate your suffering. Please do not confuse these things. To make the practice accessible is a great virtue and a gift. But the practice itself will demand absolutely everything from you. And there's no accommodating that. In fact, the source of your suffering would love to spin you a tale about accommodating it. I think that's a modern way in. We have to be very careful about this. You must be very clear about this distinction, because there is one. If we think about the Buddha's own awakening, which is being recognized around the world, I think it was yesterday, the day before, tomorrow, somewhere around this timeless day that we're all in Rahatsu. The Buddha gave up a lot of accommodations when he left that temple. Oh no, when he left the palace. There was all the accommodations imaginable. Unlimited sexual partners, delicious foods, endless music and entertainment. But then, as our story of the tradition goes, he encountered something very much other than that. This body that he was obsessing over and taking pleasure in, suddenly he saw an old body and went, "What the fuck is that?" He had never seen such a thing. He encountered illness for real. And of course, death. And the big question that he asked his attendant every time, is this going to happen to me? Does this apply to royalty? An earnest question, given the parenting style of the father who tried to accommodate every possible desire. He had no information in his experience up to that point to think that anything like this could befall him. And the attendant said, "Yes, Your Highness. you too will become old. You too will have ill health. You too will die. This recognition became the fuel. I want to just linger on this a minute. You could spend the rest of your life bemoaning the fact that you're aging. You could spend the rest of your life trying to fend off sickness and being upset when it shows itself. You could spend the rest of your life obsessing about your inevitable death, and it wouldn't do shit to help you. That's just churn. It's just churn. It always has been, and it always will be churn. You need to see and recognize these facts, and then please move the fuck on. Don't spend your time stirring over these things over and over. You got it. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Do something about it. Use this as fuel. Your suffering would love nothing more than for you to just stay there. Get on that goddamn hamster wheel and keep running. And I don't care if you're running towards something in your hamster wheel or away from something in your hamster wheel. I do not care what the view is from your particular hamster wheel. If it's a great thing you're running after or a hideous thing you're running from, probably both alternating back and forth, honestly, I don't give a shit. And neither should you. Because whether it's a happy hamster wheel or a scary one, it's still a hamster wheel. It's a trap. What I care about is that you get off the damn thing. For real. Do you understand? Every one of us is in a particular karmic place and position, and there's delights and terrors. Is it not so? Has it not always been so? For God's sake, when you were in high school, when you were 10, 5 years ago, 5 months ago, it doesn't stop. Quit caring so much about that. Quit investing in your hamster wheel. Stop it. I know there are real issues. I'm not saying they aren't real. They are real. But the answer is not to be found on the hamster wheel of your suffering. You know, every once in a while, you get a treat and you think, oh, I won. No, it's just more stickiness to the trap. So the Buddha then took this fuel and sought out something beyond it. What is beyond this? What can this be resolved? How do I actually resolve this? And it doesn't matter really if you're 19 or 99 or 110. I don't care. Your suffering doesn't care about that. Oh, well, now I can't practice because There's always Quit caring about the I'm serious. If you look at every single ancestor and practitioner who's realized their true nature, they all had The details vary, but honestly, not that much. Not that much. So after many years of effort, seeking teachers that ultimately he found lacking, practices he ultimately found shallow. He did what one must do. He stopped chasing, and he sat down. And he said, "This ends now. I'm done. This gets resolved right now." That was a quiet one, because I'm aware I'm mic'd right now and I don't want to blow the speakers. But oh, I'm feeling like I want to. But that gumption, I like that word a lot, the gumption that it takes to stop fiddling around with the goddamn hamster wheel, to see it as it is, and to stop. Do you understand? The littlest leaning forward and the wheel starts spinning and you're stuck again. The little bit running away or backing towards it, it perpetuates itself. You know what I'm talking about. And so he sat. He quit running. He quit running to something. He quit running away from anything. He just sat and he watched. Very clear. He watched. With ultimate quiescence and great equanimity, he watched and paid attention, exquisite attention. Not to the pleasurable thing drawing him forward or to the scary thing propelling him away, but in fact to his own mind. Who is it that's being strung along in this stupid game anyway? Who is it that's been fooled so many goddamn times that you've lost track? How many goals achieved to turn to dust? How many monsters under the bed? Who is it? Who are you? What is this? And it requires the great settling the fuck down. Does the Buddha speak English? Yeah. Now it's interesting, it's very interesting. When the Buddha settled down and paid attention, the way that the narrative is handed to us is very important. I really don't care if it literally happened or not. It's a very important map. Because one of the things that happened is that the hamster wheel got very distilled and very potent. See, when he began to settle down and actually pay attention, the weak wine will no longer serve. The watered-down beer doesn't motivate or scare anymore. Now it's got to be a shot of something strong. So it got very, very condensed, yeah? Because now it's like, wait a minute, somebody's actually being still. We cannot have this, says the hamster wheel. The god of the hamster wheel that lives off your sweat. And so what shows up? The pleasures of the body again. You've seen this before. It was nothing new. You did live in the palace after all. But now as the daughters of Mara themselves, doing everything they could to convince him that where he was wasn't enough, and pleasure was this way. Come. And he wouldn't play. He wouldn't play. He stopped putting energy into the churn of his own desire. Do you understand? It's really important that you see this. He stopped putting energy into that. He didn't banish them. He didn't smite them. He didn't argue with them. He didn't try to convert them. He just wouldn't play. He saw them. He knew what they had to offer. And I'm sure some parts of his body said, hey, sounds good, let's go. Why not? Oh no, no more. No more. No, not this time. Where'd they go? And then next, the big scary demons. Interesting how obsession and hatred are just on the other side of each other, right? And so now, instead of the attractive, lovely, now it's the scary and intimidating. But again, it's distilled into this really intense shot. Very scary, very intense. Armies, hordes of demons. Big, scary ogre. And he did the same exact thing. He didn't play with his fear. He didn't play with the fear. He didn't play with the anger or the hate. He didn't play with his disgust at their ugly presentation of themselves. He didn't play with his obsessive desire for the beautiful, and he did not play with his disgust at the disfigured. Notice I'm saying he didn't play with it. I'm not saying he didn't feel it. Please be clear about this point. But no, not today. This is not a game now. Already, I'm so many years old. Already have I been trapped by these stupid ass snares. How many times? I'm done. Not happening. It takes this kind of ferocious, intense bodhisattva warrior spirit to simply not play with the hamster wheel. When it has you in its grip, it seems like the most natural thing possible. That's part of its hook. Don't believe it. Just watch. And those horrible demons and the fiery arrows and everything that they launch to attack and startle him turn to flowers. He didn't play with the flowers either. That would be another hook. Right? He could have said, oh, I won, and got up and danced. No, not yet. For as much of an accomplishment as this is not yet awakening. This is just groundwork. Literally, grounding work. And then last, the image of delusion itself. Seeing his own reflection in the pond. Metaphorically, this is that there is a self that's being attracted or that's being threatened. And here we finally come to the builder of this house, the actual core of your prison. And in some ways it's very subtle, but in some ways it is not that subtle. When you get real still, it becomes very clear. If you're still rocking around on that hamster wheel because it feels good, you're never going to see it. Cut it out. Just stop it. And then when he saw into that reflection and saw through it. You know, Mara's defense, very sneaky. Oh, why are you doing this to me? Haven't I always been good for you? Haven't I helped us? Why does it hate us? Don't hurt me. Very slippery, huh? And again, the Buddha would not play. Please notice this. Notice this. Do not give it energy. Simply watch. See it. Acknowledge it. Let it go. But still, awakening had not happened yet. That was reserved for when he looked up and saw, in his case, the northern star, Venus. And that was the moment. Some contact of the senses, the mind, the object of perception, the organ of perception. These three come together as they have countless times, but this time it's different because he's not playing with the hamster wheel. There's just a direct seeing. There's no playing with discriminatory thought of up and down, yes and no, here and there, close and far. Pure, clear awakening. Now this is not for some other order of human to accomplish. This is not reserved for some other type of person. This is our birthright. This is your capacity. But it requires that willingness to sit down and really, really sit. Not just look like you're sitting there. That won't do it. Centuries later, Bodhidharma, the 26th ancestor, 27th, something like this, in India, understands it to be the case that in China there are many scholars of sutras, but there's no awakening. And in great compassion and pity, he decides, oh, fuck it, okay, I'll go. He packs everything he's got, which isn't much, a sandal and a stick, and off he goes. And after some interesting misadventures with the emperor and others, he lands in a cave where you can go today, by the way. They know where this is. The closer we get to history, the less mythic it all becomes. But who knows? But there he sat, as the story has it, for 9 years. Now he came there to transmit the Dharma. He didn't have a marketing campaign. He wasn't posting regularly. He wasn't obsessing about getting published. No interest in articles in the local rags. None of it. What did he do? He did Zazen. And he trusted it. Now his successor to be, Kuike, felt this and came and sought him out. It was rumored that a truly awakened one from India had traveled to our pitiful country, and we had access, and there was a way. Rumor is somewhere by Shaolin, you can go. And Huike did. It's such an amazing story of student mind. It's hard to tell it and not be moved. But he went, and at last he found the cave where Bodhidharma was. Now, if you think about this, like, imagine yourself being Bodhidharma. You threw your entire life in India away to come and transmit to China. You think you'd be psyched somebody cares. Finally, come in. Where the hell you been? It's been 9 years. I was giving up hope. Did you bring any food? But no, Bodhidharma doesn't play. This is too serious for that. Way too serious for that. Instead, he gives the guy 2 big scoops of ignore. 1, 2. Throw that back. 2 big heaping scoops of ignore. The hell? Kind of risky. Not really. It's the least risky thing to do. Setting out tables to entice guests, that's risky. It could blow the whole thing. That's risky. Catering to the students, that's risky. That's extremely risky. Why? Because you get back on that hamster wheel, and this time it looks like a Buddhist hamster wheel, and you think you're doing it, and you're not. You just have a different little dressing on your hamster wheel. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. No. So Huike, with this big double dose of nothing, shows his spirit. He stands outside. He thinks to himself, you know, I've read all these stories of the heroism of the Buddha and the disciples hence and the lineage. And here I am. It's right here. I can feel it. This is my teacher. This is real. It's right here. If they could do all those feats, I can't do less. I'm just going to stand here. And he was still, and he stood there. And the snows came, and the wind howled, and he stood there. That is Bodhisattva warrior spirit. That quality cannot be taught. You can cultivate it, but I can't teach it. I can show it, but you have to realize it. And I tell you this, when you do, it's absolutely guaranteed you'll come to awakening. The awakening has already happened, it just hasn't unfolded yet. I promise. That's how it is. But if you keep trying to make deals with that goddamn hamster wheel, you're never going to see it. There's no answer in the game. Drop it. Stand there. Sit there. Pay attention. Do what the ancestors have done. You are no less than they. That's one of the traps of the hamster wheel. Oh, that's for them, but for you, marshmallows. The game. TikTok. There, after all, what do you really expect of yourself? Don't worry. There, says the demon, tucking you into bed in your own prison. No. No more. I am done. I am not playing that game. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know. But I'm not moving. Eventually, the night ended, as the story goes, and Bodhidharma noticed the fool was still standing there. And he deigned to engage in some conversation, kind of like, what the hell? What are you doing? And the feeling of the exchange was, I am here. I should pull up the actual language. Huike went to Shaolin Monastery on Mount Song. It was the 9th day of the 12th month of the year 528. The great master Bodhidharma would not allow him to enter the room. And so the master, Huike, stood outside the window. Now, he's referred to here as master because this is written after the fact, when he had received transmission and was in fact the first indigenous Chinese awakened Zen master. So the master, Huike, stood outside the window. That night it snowed hard, but he remained standing in the snow, waiting for dawn. Deepening snow buried him to the waist, and the cold pierced his very bones. His falling tears froze, drop by drop, making them even colder. He thought to himself, why isn't Bodhidharma accommodating me? Again, I want to recapitulate what I opened with. We will continue to be accommodating. Please don't take this the wrong way, but this kind of accommodation I'm speaking of. No, he didn't say that. He thought to himself, when the ancients sought the way, they pounded their bones and extracted the marrow, drew blood to relieve thirst, spread their hair to cover the mud, and threw themselves over cliffs to feed the tigers. If the ancients were like this, what kind of practitioner am I? So thinking, he strengthened his resolve and remained standing, unmoving and unflinching. When dawn came, the great master Bodhidharma saw that he had stood all night in the snow. He asked in pity, "You have stood a long time in the snow. What do you want?" This is an incredibly generous and compassionate phrase. You have stood a long time in the snow. Tell me, O seeker, what do you want? Now here, believe me, if Huike had said, I want a better dressing for my hamster wheel, it would not have gotten him very much. Nothing. If he had said, oh, I seek to be free from the scary thing chasing me in my hamster wheel, Bodhidharma would spit and go away, leave him to it. Do you understand that? That's not what this is about. It never has been, and it never will be. Not like that. The true freedom is beyond the hamster wheel. Huike answered Bodhidharma's generous opening. I beg you, O priest, open the door of ambrosia in your compassion and deliver us common beings everywhere. Fulfill your bodhisattva vow, I beg you. When a teacher is asked such a question, the response can only be yes. Here's how the great master said yes. The supreme, wonderful way of the Buddhas takes aeons of diligent practice, practicing what it is hard to practice, enduring what is difficult to endure. How can you struggle in vain and hope to obtain the true vehicle with such slight merits, deficient understanding, thoughtlessness, and pride? And so saying, he ignored him again. How is that yes? How is that appropriate response? You see, I think Bodhidharma knew that this was a real student. This was a real potential person of the way. He took them very seriously. This is not just a grumpy old man, get off my lawn. It's something very different. But you have to know the heart of Huike to understand this. When the master, Huike, heard this compassionate instruction, he wept even more. His determination to seek the way grew firmer and firmer. No, that doesn't reach it. Ring, ding, ding, ding. What do? Oh, Roshi doesn't like me. I'm a bad little Zen student. Oh, I need a treat. Perhaps a nap, a show, a little treat. It's not going to do it. I fear for the future of the Dharma if the mind of Huike as student here isn't preserved and understood. And also the gumption of Bodhidharma the teacher. Imagine yourself being in that situation. That takes some steel in the spine too, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it does. It's not just get off my lawn. It's not, hey, I'm walking here. It's something very different. It's the compassionate mind of Buddha interfacing directly with your prison. Nothing less. At once, Huike picked up a sharp sword and cut off his arm. The great master then realized that Huike was a receptacle for the Dharma and said, when Buddhas seek the Dharma in the very beginning, they forget their bodies for the sake of the Dharma. You have now cut off your arm in front of me. You have the potential to seek the Dharma. The master then subsequently changed his name to Huike, which means potential for the Dharma, and was permitted at last to enter the room. Rough day. But a good day. Without that day, we would not be here. Not in this way. Now, again, literally, did he actually cut his arm off? I don't know. Let's say sure. Let's say no. It's a metaphor. I don't care. The mind that's being described here is extremely real. And there have been many arms cut off in the Doksan room, just to say. I don't collect them, by the way. I give them back. Just in case you were wondering. He served Bodhidharma then for 8 years. 8 years. Full time, nothing else, only this. Nothing balanced about it. No balance here. Kids, career, family, relationships, and my 501 C3 and my IRA and my mortgage. No, not in this case. Now, I'm not saying not to have those things, but you must have the heart and the mind of Huike. And then having a retirement plan is no problem. Do you see the difference? Now, listen to this. One time, after 8 years of being in the room, Huike asked Master Bodhidharma, "Can the seal of the Buddha Dharma be had by hearing?" Can the seal of the Buddha Dharma be had by hearing? This may seem a strange question. This may seem an obvious question. But either way, Bodhidharma's response, the seal of the Buddha Dharma cannot be acquired through hearing. When you still, now listen to this is very important, okay? When you still all conditions externally, and there is no more grasping by the mind internally, and the mind becomes like a wall, then you will have entered the way. When you still all conditions externally, and there is no more grasping of the mind internally, the mind becomes like a wall, like the wall you're facing today. That's why we face the wall. That's what Bodhidharma was doing in the cave. Then you will enter the way. Even though Master Huike often spoke about mind and essential nature, he was not yet one with its truth. So what is this? This business of stilling the external, quieting the internal. It's the same business that the Buddha did when he was sitting there under that Bodhi tree, not fiddling with the attraction or the disgust, the fear or the anger, the agitation or the delight. A full and complete not playing with it. Nope. Now later, Huike saw through this, and he said, "I have put an end to all conditions. I've put an end to all conditions." You know, conditions, causes and conditions, karma, churn, hamster wheel by our metaphor of the moment. I put an end to the hamster wheel. It's kind of a bold claim, but he makes it. Interestingly, Bodhidharma replied and said, "Doesn't that result in your death?" Kuike replied, "It does not result in death." "Well, what's your proof?" says Bodhidharma to his nearly successor. Listen, I am clearly aware. Therefore, words are inadequate. I am clearly aware. Words don't reach it. The master then said, "This is the mind substance realized by all Buddhas. Have no doubt." Student and teacher had become each other, and they bowed, each to each other, each to themselves. Good for them. What about you? What about us? This thing that we're doing is not a game. The sincerity that I spoke of last night is this bodhisattva warrior spirit. I beg you, do not play around with the hamster wheel. Be done with it. Be clear. Be pristinely aware. Watch what's happening in your mind when you're sitting there facing that wall. Pay attention. Gutting it out won't do it. Blissing out won't do it. Cussing in your mind the whole time won't do it. Reciting Buddhist mind trainings won't do it. Just drop all of it, everything, into this one thing that is no thing. Be awake. Watch. Pay attention and trust yourself. There never has been any other way. And it's available right here, right now. Do not waste your time. Strive to awaken. Really take heed. Do not squander this life. Realize it for the benefit of all beings. And then play freely, responding to circumstances as they rise, joyfully seeing the skillful way of being in response to the moment. Then the hamster wheel is no problem. It's kind of fun sometimes because you're awake. May it be so.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to I